Good morning, Trojans. Welcome back. I hope all of you are doing well. And I am encouraging everyone just to stay focused. This is a hard time of year. With the cold, snowy weather and lack of sun, it can increase anxiety and depression. So if you need help, please reach out. I wanted to start off today with just a few announcements. The first one goes out to those 11th graders. Remember, the ACT is coming up on March 9th. This is an important test for you. And we want to help you with that. So we are offering additional support each and every Wednesdays to get you ready for that test. For everyone, we are getting to the time of year when counselors will be asking you to complete your course requests for next year. This is your chance to pick out the course and classes you want to take. A survey will be coming to your email soon, so please watch for it. Now, everybody here, we just have to be honest with ourselves. We like food. I am very excited to announce that Tech is creating its very own cookbook, but we need your help. We need your recipes for snacks, for appetizers, desserts, and entrees. Anything that tastes good, we want in the book. Now, I plan on sharing my recipe for a peanut butter Dorito sandwich. Look for it in the book. So whether you are a master chef or an amateur cook, please share your recipes. The information was shared with all staff, and they'll be able to provide you with a link to submit your ideas.
Stop. Wait a minute.
Good morning, Bradley Tech. We have a lot of fun updates for this month. This week, since it's Black History Month, we are going to be having a poster contest, and you'll be working on those posters in ACP Advisory over the next few weeks. These posters can be talking about or showing any aspect of Black History Month that you want. You can be as fun, creative, or as innovative as you would like. You just need to make sure that you have them turned in to Mr. Dowers or Mr. D by 1 p.m. on February 23rd. Then next week, we have a Valentine's Day Poetry Slam event. This is going to be taking place next Wednesday at 1:30 p.m. You can come and read poetry, perform a poem that you like or an original work, or you can come to just listen. Whatever you would like, all are welcome. Go to your counselor's page for more information on that event.
We are now in the month of February, where we take extra time to celebrate Black history. For years in schools, you have learned about the life and impact of figures like Martin Luther King, Harriet Tubman, and Rosa Parks. They have all had an impact on a national level. So I thought that we could focus some time on some local heroes. If you were headed north on 4th Street from St. Paul to Capitol, you would be on Val Phillips Avenue. Do you know who Val Phillips is? Do you know her impact on Milwaukee?
The public struggle for open housing in Milwaukee had started when one woman decided it was time for a change.
You are aware, gentlemen, that the eyes of the nation, indeed, the eyes of the world, are upon Milwaukee.
Her name was Val Phillips. Val Phillips was the first African-American woman to graduate from the University of Wisconsin Law School, the first African-American and first female alderman in Milwaukee, the first African-American judge in Wisconsin, the first African-American and first female to be elected to statewide executive office in Wisconsin or anywhere in the United States. Val Phillips combined a fierce commitment to her principles with an aristocratic grace. And in the end, she forced her city and her country to come closer to the ideals that motivated her life.
My mother would always tell us, if you really want it, don't dream small dreams, dream big dreams.
Val Phillips was born on the south side of Milwaukee in the mid-1920s. Throughout her life, she was a trailblazer who worked for equal rights throughout Milwaukee.
Val's mother, Thelma, had 3 rules for her daughters.
She wanted us to be ladies, but she wanted us to be smart.
As a high school student, Val entered a national speaking contest and won. Her performance got her a scholarship to the university of her choice. On September 12, 1948, Dale and Val were married at St. Mark's AME Church in Milwaukee. Dale and Vel Phillips became the first African-American couple to graduate from the University of Wisconsin Law School. After graduation, they returned to Milwaukee, where they opened up their law office, Phillips & Phillips. The latest census had revealed a surge in Milwaukee's African-American population. With it, a new ward was created and the possibility of an African-American alderman on the all-white, all-male Common Council.
In 1953, she became the first Black candidate for the Milwaukee School Board to run in the citywide primary election. She lost that one, but it didn't stop her. 3 years later, she became the first Black woman elected to the Milwaukee Common Council.
On April 3, 1956, Vel Phillips was elected as Milwaukee's first female and first African-American alderman.
Milwaukee was incorporated in 1846, and this was 1956, so it took 110 years.
National political leaders began to notice Phillips's talents. In 1958, she was elected to the Democratic National Committee. No Black woman had ever served on the committee before. The battle for civil rights was becoming a national focus. Earlier that year, college students had staged sit-ins to desegregate lunch counters. Americans watched as the activists were beaten and arrested. The 1960 presidential election was underway. Phillips went to Los Angeles for the Democratic National Convention, where the party was to nominate Massachusetts Senator John F. Kennedy as its candidate. Northern liberals at the Democratic National Convention demanded a strong civil rights plank. Senator Spessard Holland, a segregationist from Florida, warned that taking the party too far towards civil rights would doom the Democrats' chance at winning the White House. Phillips shot back at the senator and declared, winning isn't nearly so important as doing the right thing.
She surprised a lot of people. Maybe made some people step back and go, whoa.
2 days later, the Democratic Party adopted a platform fully committed to civil rights.
I just felt this was what was due us, and God had seen to it that I was there to do my part.
While there, most of her work focused on discrimination that existed within housing, education, and employment in Milwaukee. She was the first to author a fair housing law, which later was approved in 1968.
As an alderman, Phillips was in a position to devise an open housing ordinance to combat Milwaukee's segregation policies. In 1962, Phillips submitted to the Milwaukee Common Council a landmark ordinance. It is to be the policy of the city of Milwaukee to assure equal opportunity to all persons to live in decent housing facilities, regardless of race, color, or national origin.
She introduced the fair housing law and got one vote, hers.
Over 5 years, Phillips introduced her open housing ordinance with the same result.
The committee has chosen, as it has done previously, to reject the ordinance unanimously.
At the same time, her constituents fought other battles against job discrimination, segregated schools, and whites-only clubs. But housing discrimination was at the top of their list. 5 years of trying to pass open housing bills in the Common Council had failed, and in 1967, Vel Phillips's constituents looked for another strategy. In August 1967, 200 activists marched across the 16th Street Viaduct in Milwaukee, demanding the right to live in any neighborhood in the city. Among them, the NAACP Youth Council, Father James Groppe, a Catholic priest, and the Commandos, a self-defense group from the inner core.
You march across that bridge, and on the opposite side,
residents hurled bricks, bodily fluids, and racial slurs.
The police began throwing tear gas and creating dense plumes of smoke.
She joined Father Groppe and other open housing activists, for a rally at St. Boniface Parish.
Because it was for my fair housing, I felt nothing was going to stop us.
Vel Phillips, Father Groppe, and the rest of the crowd and took to the street.
The decision was made to march. The St. Boniface was on 11th and Clark. We got as far as 9th and North Avenue, so that's about 6 blocks. And the police closed in and started to arrest people. Val Phillips was one of the first arrested.
And they treated you like you weren't a real person.
Phillips was released the next morning. She marched again that night.
I think that's when she got a reputation for being very brave and tough.
The growing media exposure brought unwanted attention to Val's home. There were phone calls.
This man, he would call and say, "I'm watching you. I think the black people like yourself should go back to Africa, where you came from." It was scary, and I wondered if we should get some guards or something.
She received hate-filled letters.
This letter said, "P.S. If you see brown streaks, that's because I used this for toilet paper before I sent it to you." And I had it in my hand. I just dropped it like that.
Then a shot was fired into her kitchen.
The bullet landed right in the middle of the oven door.
Open housing marches went on for 200 days, continuing into early 1968.
To come every day like clockwork, like it was a job, for over 200 days. This little white man said, "I'm very confused. What is it that you people want?" And I said, "Just say America is a big pie. We want a piece of the pie. We want a piece of America." And he looked stunned, and he said, "That's all?" I said, "Well, that's a great deal if you don't have it."
On April 4th, 1968, the Reverend Martin Luther King Jr. was assassinated. Soon after, President Lyndon Johnson and Congress passed the Civil Rights Act of 1968. It included legislation that for the first time specifically outlawed housing segregation. In response to the new federal law, Milwaukee's Common Council approved a citywide open housing ordinance. 6 years after she first introduced the ordinance, Alderman Phillips had finally won. On November 7, 1978, Vel Phillips was elected Wisconsin's Secretary of State, becoming the first African American to be elected to statewide office in Wisconsin, and the first African American woman to be elected to any statewide executive office in American history.
No one will deny the impact Val Phillips has had on Milwaukee. Her work broke boundaries and expanded the rights of individuals throughout our city. So remember, until next time, work hard, get smart.